Watch me slide with the bass. Now I'm waving the place. Watch me slide with the bass. Now I'm waving. Coming hard up through your speakers. Grab your friends and grab your sneakers. We gon' stay there to the track out. Of a party in the back out. And if it's late, grab it then and play time to reinnovate. Play yourself. Play yourself. Slept on total all the time has come for me. Jumping out, 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 jumping out. Watch me slide with the bass. Now I'm waving the place. Watch me slide with the bass. Now I'm waving. All the haters in the back. All the dollars in the back. Where they going, where they at? Where they going? Where they going? All the haters in the back. All the dollars in the back. Where they going, where they at? Where they going? Where they going? Slept on total all the time has come for me. Jumping out, 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 jumping out. Jump.
I've made mistakes, and you Radio. Turn us on, enjoy the show. The machine for the soul.
Regardless religion, your status, your goals, is where everyone grows from what everyone knows.
Sistah Chat Radio. Turn us on, enjoy the show. The machine for your soul.
Your purpose, your passion, yes, we can discuss. Designed just for you, yeah, you can trust us. Trust us.
Good evening and welcome to Sistah Chat on WSMR 100 FM. We are so pleased that all of you are here joining us this evening. We have an important topic to talk about. Our topic this evening is called divorce. And being a single dad, which is such an important topic.
Absolutely.
But before we get started, we're going to introduce all of the sisters. We're missing Miss Jen this evening. She is being honored today.
Hey, Jen.
Hi,
Miss you.
Jen. We're so proud of you, and
Yes, we are.
We want to let everyone know that there is so much going on that we want to talk about. We want to thank our longtime sponsors, brokersrealty.com and John Rainville and Betty Piat, for all that they do for Sistah Chat. They keep us going. You know, they're just there to support everything, and it is so amazing to have wonderful sponsors like that.
Absolutely. And not just going, but growing, because we are growing, but without them, we wouldn't be able to be where we are right now.
They're always there to support us. They
Always
come to
there.
our teas. And speaking of that, we're going to be having our second annual Mother's Day tea on Saturday, May 4th at the Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort from 1 to 4:30. We're going to have entertainment. Miss Valina Hayes is definitely going to be with us.
Woohoo!
And also Christina Lenaway is going to be joining us. Christina wrote our jingle for Get Seen in the Poconos. Valina was just on with us. We also are going to have raffle tickets, and we're going to have an auction, and it is going to proceed. The proceeds are going to benefit Women's United and of the United Way of Monroe County. The individual tickets are $35. Children under 10 are $25, and a table of 8 is $250. We want to thank Weiler Brush for being our first sponsor. They reached out, sent us a check to sponsor us before we even started thinking about sponsorships. So we absolutely want to thank Weiler for their generous contribution to our Mother's Day tea. We also want to tell everyone that you can join us for the Lehigh Valley Healthy Network Pocono Healthy Lifestyle Challenge with Dr. Musa Tangoran. It is every second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the ESU Abelhoff Auditorium from now through June. The next time you can join in is March 12th. Alex will be there, Jen will be there, and it is absolutely free. We also want to thank all of the musicians that have been sending us new music that we can air. If you were listening to the music just prior to the show, we had Christina Lenaway and her new music. We had Valina Hayes and her music. And we also had a new group called 9 Dot Wave, which was just incredible.
Yeah.
So if you are an upcoming artist and you have music that you would like to play, please reach out to us at sistahchatradio@gmail.com, or you can also message us through Messenger on Facebook. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can always message us that way. We also have had music by Andrew Moses. Andrew hosts the open mic at Renegade Winery on Thursday nights from 8 to 11 p.m. I want to introduce all of our sisters that are here. We have...
And Mr. Sistah.
And Mr. Sistah.
And Mr. Sistah.
Well, we can't forget you, Alex. Oh, my goodness. So, first and foremost is Alex Sosa, who is our
Hola.
Mr. Sistah, and
evening.
he keeps us on track.
Yes, he does.
We have Holly Kearns, who is on the chat room this evening. Holly's our amazing business manager, and she definitely keeps Mama C on track.
Oh, yes, Lord. Thank you. Thank you, because I'm busy keeping my daughter and my grandchildren on track. I don't have anything left for me, so thank you, Holly.
We have Mama C, of course, in the room.
Woohoo!
And I'm Sarah
Mama C.
Smith Katz, aka Lady Sarah. And we are always so happy to be here. We have Ramel Taylor on. He's our amazing producer that's always, making sure that everything is running right on the flip side of things.
Yeah, on the
and
technical end.
And we have Alina Hayes joining us. She's in the background. So
Absolutely.
So you'll hear all kinds of people chiming in here.
Yeah, we got a lot of voices here tonight.
I think we've come to the point where we really need to get started with this conversation this evening. So I want to introduce our guests, Christopher McCabe and Andre Reams. And before we get started, I want to let all of our listeners and remind them that the views and opinions of our guests are not that of Sistah Chat Radio or WSMR 100 FM.
Absolutely. We believe that everyone is entitled to their opinion, but we don't want to take responsibility for somebody else's opinions or behavior.
Because we have enough opinions
we
of our
got enough
own.
opinion of our own that we have to be accountable for, especially me.
Take it away, Mama C.
Wow. And Holly's over there going, yeah, she was agreeing with me when I said especially me, I mean, sometimes I have to battle with them on some of my opinions and, I'm just one of those wild child, so, and I take responsibility for that. But I'm so glad that Christopher and Andre, you guys agreed to be here because you know what? Helping children to navigate through a divorce is a very tedious thing. And I know that the two of you are in the midst of divorce. And we'd like to know from a male perspective, how do you navigate with the children? How do you help the children to get through what they once thought was their rock, their stability? How do you help them to find their new normal and be okay with it? Andre?
I think number one, you have to have communication. You have to be honest. You have to sit them down and, obviously tell them this is not about them. Always show them the love,
Right.
And the support. But you have to be honest and let them know this is what it is today. This is what we're looking to go for and do, and how they play a part in that, and how you and the other person plays a part in that. And so, just making sure all that comes together so that everybody is on the same page. And I think that's vitally important.
I agree with you. Christopher?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. Probably 80% of the information that's out there is not from the male perspective. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're very welcome.
So, I agree wholeheartedly with what Andre touched on. Making certain that the kids understand, as he said, it's not about them. Whether it was mistakes were made or relationships change, how you go through that process of discussion, though, is hopefully what we're going to be talking about today. And, I know from where I was sitting, the idea that I wanted the children to know that they were loved, period. That's the most important thing.
Right. And Alex, I know that you have also been navigating through a divorce. I know you are divorced now,
Yes.
and you have children. What is it that you do to try and ensure the well-being of your children?
Well, I just try it like they both said, Chris and Andre. Just make it not about them, make it about just you as a father and the child.
Right.
Always keep it always a positive environment. Never talk down on mom. Never involve any of the issues that they're aware of. Keep all that stuff away.
Absolutely.
Just basically try to keep a good relationship with mom, which is very strong.
And which I think is very important. And I think Chris and Andre and I were talking before the show began, and one of the things that I tried to impart to them, and I think they understand, is that many women, most of us grew up with the Cinderella complex, the Cinderella syndrome, We think happily ever after. We're gonna find our Mr. Right, our knight in shining armor. Everything's gonna be hunky dory and beautiful.
Well, and
Heard that before.
unfortunately, that's still being perpetrated
Yes, it is.
today, because how many people actually call their daughters princess
Yeah, yeah.
I do.
or
Yeah.
queen?
Or queen. Yeah,
Well, not queen, princess.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but
I
how,
see
but
that too.
How do you and call your significant other a queen? I mean, that is really perpetrating that Cinderella complex.
Oh,
At least in my estimation.
Yeah, and I agree with you to a certain extent. Well, I agree, period. Let's put it that way. And so what happens is when this Cinderella image in their mind, this knight in shining armor that you guys are seen as, when that whole image breaks and hits rock bottom, many women don't have the coping skills to deal with what's going on. And so I think it's very important that men recognize you cannot fight with your ex-spouse because she's hurting, she's disappointed, and she doesn't have the coping skills in most cases to deal with that. She doesn't know where to go because nobody knows where do you go when the Cinderella story blows up in your
A
face.
situation where you don't fight fire with fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say fire with fire begets more fire. Somebody's got to be responsible enough to step back or step out of a volatile situation so that both people can heal. I think women take it a lot harder than men. I think. I don't know. I'm speaking from the female perspective, but
I have a question for our guests. I'd like to know how, and Alex, how did you broach the subject of separation and divorce with your children? Like, from a man's perspective, how did you talk to your children about what was happening at home?
From where I was sitting, it had already been raised to the children. I'm a little bit of the anomaly here, probably, because the divorce happened to me as opposed to what seems to be the stronger percentage. Now, to take your question and go and jump ahead a few months into the situation, what I did was I made certain that the children knew that as changes were occurring within the family dynamic and the house and the home, and as that was about to become something different, they needed to be able to express to dad or mom or any other trusted adult what was going on in their heads. And I've got several that range the age. I've got I had the preteens then. They're now 12. 7.5, 8-year-old who's now almost 10, and 6.5 who's now 8. So
And where are you in your process? Are you divorced or are you in the process of divorce?
we're still divorcing.
Okay.
And as of June is when I finally did move out of the house. So
Okay.
it's still fairly new for all of us.
right. So the new dynamic has taken place.
Now, one of the things that I brought up in the hallway before we came in here with Mama C was the idea, and this has been tough because the kids are having problems with it. I'm probably having problems with it, and I believe their mother's having problems with it, is that it's the same home, it's just an extension of that home. They go home to mom, they come home to dad. It's not, we're going to go visit dad, we're not going to go visit mom. Using those words are very important, especially at this time while the kids are still starting to transition and they need to mentally get their head around how to express their
Have you had anyone that has been helping you to understand the use of words and how important they are on your children?
specifically the use of words? No. Now my children are in counseling.
That's a
Okay.
good thing. That's
right.
good.
And the other thing is the children understand, at least from me, that that's not daddy's counselor. That's their counselor.
So they feel
They-
that it's a safe place.
It's safe and neutral, and I stay downstairs when they go upstairs.
Okay.
And I'm very certain it's the same when mom brings them.
What about you, Andre?
I think one of the biggest parts for me was to sit both. I have twins, and I have a little guy who's not so. He's 4, so it's a lot different than when you're dealing
him,
with twins who are 14. I think one of the biggest part for me was to just sit down and have that conversation with them, and here I am preparing myself to have this come to Jesus moment with them, and the tables got flipped really on me, and I realized my kids are really smart, and what
It's
I
amazing when they
They
do
had
that.
already figured it out.
what I thought they didn't know, they educated me very well.
Yeah.
And so we begin to have those conversations, and I begin to ask questions simply, and are you okay with this? How do you feel about this? And they shared with me their thoughts and their sentiments, and we began to shape. For me, it wasn't about the situation anymore. It wasn't about me bringing the situation to them, because quite frankly, I don't think that's if I'm bringing this situation to them, I'm bringing it from my perspective. Then they're gonna have to hear it from mom's perspective.
Right.
I think that's, to me, and again, I can only speak for my thing. That's the worst I can do. Right now, it's all about them. And I said earlier, I say all the time, I want to be the world's greatest dad. That is my focus. Focus not on divorce. My focus is being the world's greatest dad. How
Awesome.
can I be that?
Awesome. Yeah.
Even more now that we're not together. So, I am a big play on words. You're coming to dad's house, you're going to mom's house. But when you're at dad's house, I'm not concerned about anything other than my time with them. And how am I making this enjoyable? What activities we can do to have fun? How do we, what can I teach them in terms of, like, we'll cook together, we'll put something together. How do we have that family night of movies? And then, just continue to just show them that love. If I kept, for me, it wasn't about rehashing anything or going backwards. At this juncture, I think they're old enough and smart enough to know that that's not happening. So the discussing that is fruitless. For
Alex,
me,
what about
it's
you?
going forward.
My daughter was very young, and I actually filed for divorce. There was domestic violence involved, so I had to do.
What you had to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And my daughter was about 3 years old, and I filed for divorce right away. I was homeless for like a month and a half, but
Wow.
it was something that I had to do with my daughter.
Right.
We stood at my mom's and my friends, and I was in college at the same time, so it was a bit of a. That's why I say homeless. Not that family wasn't there, but it
Right.
was kind of like.
Yeah, you
I
were
was
in
everywhere.
between here and there, wherever you could be,
Right.
for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I can, was which end did the domestic violence come into play?
I got home at 11 o'clock at night, and she bashed me over the face with a phone.
Whoa. Okay. So, I think it's important for our viewers and listeners out there to understand there are women who abuse men as well, if that man is willing to tolerate it. And Alex was not. And I think, you're walking away from it and getting out of a volatile situation is very admirable. I think more men should do that. And, women, again, a lot of women don't have good coping skills. They don't know how to
There's
control
a great
their anger.
misconception that domestic violence is only on the men's side of it,
Right.
and not on the women's side of it. In my family, my brother was married to a woman that was
Abusive.
extremely abusive.
Wow.
But yet, his children are now grown.
Right.
And he has a new grandchild coming tomorrow.
Ooh,
being born tomorrow.
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Jolie.
But here's the issue. When there are unresolved issues between the parents,
That's-
then all of a sudden there's an event like a marriage or childbirth or something else, and you have to be in the same place with that person that you've gone through all this with.
Wow.
It is a really difficult situation.
I'm sure.
And I have to say, having gone through my own divorce, and I'm going to put a little bit of female perspective into this, I could have nailed my ex-husband in a whole different way than I did. But because I put my children first,
Right.
because I wanted to be able to, at some point, go to their wedding and not hate my ex,
Right. Right.
go to a school play, and not feel like I need to somehow shirk him, I chose to take a different path. But
Absolutely.
it takes a big woman to be able to do that, and a big
Absolutely.
man
Absolutely.
to do that, because you got to put so much of that crap behind you.
Right, and it was very, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Nancy,
Go ahead.
But it was very challenging for me. Not just that, I had to go through the judicial system. It wasn't fun.
No,
Of course
it's not.
it wasn't fun. And
Alex, was the judicial system, was it very presumptive of the
they were very skeptical of
Right.
everything. But you can't. I had a broken retina, big swollen eye. And the good thing is I reacted right away. I didn't wait till the next day. I didn't wait to, I didn't tell somebody. No, I just reacted right away. I took my daughter.
Did you
I went to
file
the police
papers?
station. Yeah, no, everything.
I mean,
yeah,
like the
everything,
PFA
yeah.
and all of that stuff?
Well,
or
I
no?
didn't do that.
Okay.
I didn't do that. Why? Because if I would have done this happened in Jersey. So if I would have done what's called here in Pennsylvania PFA, over there is a restraining order, she wouldn't be able to see our daughter.
Right.
Okay.
So because the judge granted her free, to go free. Literally, they didn't even put her in handcuffs. Not that I care, but
Right. Right.
the thing is that she wouldn't be able to see her, and at the end of the day, it's an issue between me and her. I didn't want her to be the same way when we went to court for custody. I didn't, yes, of course, I would take full custody, no problem. Let's do 50-50.
Absolutely.
Because at the end
Joint
of the day,
custody.
yes, it hurts me. I mean, yes, I would definitely want to take my daughter, and you know what, you did something, but you got to put those things aside.
I think
Absolutely.
it
have
goes
to
back
be
to
the bigger
what
man.
Sarah says. Whether you're the male or female, you have to be the big person.
Absolutely.
And
I
think
agree.
sometimes when you
I
step
agree,
back out
Andre.
of the situation, I was sharing earlier that you have to, you can discuss the matter, but you're discussing it from your perspective. But when you take a step back and maybe see from a different perspective of how things were from that person's perspective, and you got to look at also too the future.
Absolutely.
But so you made a critical decision to say, hey, I can go one way here and I'll probably be justified going that way. But how is that going to impact the future? Not just today.
And the kids.
Yes,
And the
yes,
kids.
yes.
Now, how is
Future,
this going to
definitely.
impact the situation today? How is it going to impact the kids today? But how is it going to impact the situation down the line
Down
and
the line.
impact the kids down the line?
Absolutely.
And so, from my perspective, it would just keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward. And if for me, that was critical. I couldn't keep looking back. I had to keep pushing forward. And forward with me was be the best dad you can be. And I said this to someone the other day and was sharing their perspective of situation. I said, there's billions of people in this world. Billions, right? Bro, you can't tell me you're going bananas over one person.
And what about for the hard things that are coming up? The doctor's appointments, the problems, potential problems at school, the
It's your responsibility. I mean,
Communication.
yeah.
yes,
Being,
It's your
being
responsibility just as
a
much.
responsible person and just communicate.
right?
You have to.
I
the
agree.
good thing is scheduling work
Yeah.
around these things. The same way mom can take off, you got to take off.
Sure.
And you gotta,
Absolutely.
And you know what? I did find it hard. I did find it hard. Not my current employer. My current employer is great. But in the past, I had another employer. they were surprised. It's like
And
a dad's
that's-
got to take time off.
Yeah, that's an
you know,
interesting
like
perspective.
Yes,
Right.
You have to take time off. I have to take my daughter to the doctor, or she has a school play that I want to attend. She's like, Dad, I want you to be there. You got to be there. There's no
Gotta
such
be
thing as,
there.
these. I kind of feel very strongly about it, but us men have to stop using the "I have to go to work" excuse, or anyone else, whoever does, even including female. You have to make time for your children.
Absolutely.
You have to take time out, 2 hours, whatever. Go do what you have to do. Make your children happy, because that's one thing that's hurting America today. We don't spend
Hurting
enough time.
children.
We don't spend enough time with our children. Our children are growing up hurt
Absolutely.
without parents being around. Period.
Absolutely.
Well, there used to be a thing here in the Poconos. I'm going to digress for just a moment.
Okay.
At where kids were called latchkey kids.
Yeah. Oh,
And they,
yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
I mean, it's still happening,
still
but I
happening.
think they've really cracked down a lot on it. But it's where children were actually left to fend for themselves by both mom and dad as they went into the city to work and do whatever and then come home on the weekend. And, it is, to me, it is so incredible that parents would feel that they have the right to do that to their children and not be part of their lives. And I agree with you, Alex, because now these kids are adults, maybe having children themselves, and what are they going to do with them? Because it's learned behavior.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's in relationships too, how we interact with our potential ex or our current partner or significant other. How we act with them is a learned behavior. We are teaching our children, whether they're a 2-year-old or a 20-year-old, how women, you got to learn how to cope. Men, you got to learn how to cope and interact, whether it's fun or not.
Absolutely.
Right. And another thing is, like, there's a lot of times, I tell a lot of my friends too, because they ask me, they're like, oh, you're always taking her here and there. Does the mom ever do anything? It's like, doesn't matter. You can't lose. You can't lose. If mom doesn't want to do, that's fine. You can't just go, hey, you know what? She's, no. I took her. Let's say it. Oh, you can't do it? Okay, no problem. I'll do it. Okay, no problem. Whatever it is, you don't lose. You can't lose in that situation.
Absolutely. Parenting is a responsibility, but unfortunately it's a responsibility a lot of people don't want to take. They want the good side of it. They want to be seen as the friend. They want to be everything but the parent. But parenting is a tough job, and it's a responsibility. Once you make that baby and that baby comes out, it is your responsibility. It's not just the woman's responsibility or the man's responsibility. It is a joint responsibility that parents have to begin to view as an important component of their lives and their children's lives. So important.
And I think not just parents have to look at it that way. Court system has to too.
Absolutely.
The court system, this every other
Well, it's
weekend crap.
antiquated.
I'm
Yeah.
completely
It
against
really
it.
is, yeah.
I'm completely against it. Like, when the first time we went, I actually had temporary custody of my daughter when the whole thing happened.
Right.
Once that happened, everything went back to normal. The judge said every other weekend. I said, it's impossible that I'm going to view my daughter every other weekend. You're crazy.
Yeah.
He was like, what
Not
are you saying?
happening.
I'm like, that's not happening. They literally forced me. I had to do an emergent hearing the next day because of that. I was like, no, this is not. It's ridiculous.
I had proposed every other week or every 2 weeks.
Right.
And the court literally couldn't get their head around it. The mediator kept telling me, nobody does that.
Right. Oh, the rubber band effect. Did they ever tell you the rubber band effect?
No, what's that?
That's one thing. That the children feel like a rubber band
Oh.
between coming back and forth.
As
from one
opposed
parent
to showing up at dad's on a Thursday
Every
night
other
or a
weekend.
Friday and going home on a Sunday night.
I think again in my situation is different. I have them. We have week on, week off. So it's 7 on Sundays, 7 off.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That is awesome.
But again, for me, I made it very clear. I was never a part-time dad.
Correct. That's
Don't
right.
treat me
That's
as
right.
one.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
I've
But it's
always
that
been.
presumptive judicial system
But
that
again,
automatically just reverts to
I am not a part-time dad.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I've been
absolutely.
You have to fight
I've
for
been dad.
I
I've
do.
been dad
Since day
since
one.
conception.
Yeah. Hello. That's
Right,
day
right,
one.
Since conception,
Uh-huh, exactly.
You were a part of it.
and I've been there birth I've been there all the way here. So now we have gotten to this juncture, and now you're trying to regulate. Watch this, me or regulate her. That's not acceptable.
Correct.
And so we're
Completely
both
agree.
responsible parents. We just need this to be a little mediated out, but don't make one or the other part-time parents, and that's
Right.
not good.
And that's so
You know,
important.
Well, something that Andre and I talked about in the car on the way over. You know, the idea that and hopefully I won't lose my train of thought here. The idea that
It's coming back. It's coming back. I see it.
the idea that
I know the feeling, Chris.
good thing we're not rolling cameras. Oh, we are.
Yes, we
You're
are.
live, by the way.
That you know the kids are going to get lost in some sort of an ebb or flow here. You know, Andre really had some wise words as we were driving over, and not only the child focus but the parent focus, and that's what I was trying to bring up.
Yes.
You know, whatever occurred, X and Y was over here, and now today, you know, mom and dad are on mom and dad. And that's all they ever need to be again. Removing the husband-wife quotient. That's what I was trying to. Thank God. Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, removing
You know, I
the
was about to
husband-wife
say that,
thing.
but
yeah,
yeah, no.
okay, all
I
right.
wanted
no,
you to say
removing that
it.
husband-wife quotient, but at the same time still expressing themselves as mom and dad. And you know, you said it a little differently, but that's what you were saying. Is this is the discussion, the attitude, and the time spent is about mom and dad, and it's not about being husband-wife. And
I often say, you know, you're an incredible mom, a phenomenal woman, and I make sure I say that in front of my kids. Your mom's an incredible mom. They need to hear that. They need to. They need to,
That is
you know,
tremendous.
They need to hear that.
I
whatever our issue
applaud
was,
you for doing that.
Whatever our issue was, that's that. Hey, that got nothing to do with you. That's us.
Right, right.
aside.
Keep
Absolutely.
personal, those
Take
conversations.
personal
Your
Yeah.
mom
responsibility, yeah.
is an incredible mom. You know, world's best mom. You know, next to my mom.
Yeah, after your mom, yeah.
You know, and I often say that. You know, I couldn't have anyone better in the world to have them as their mom. It's important for me to say that. It's important for them to hear that come out of my mouth. And whatever discussion that we have behind the scenes, we try to keep it behind the scenes, but up front, she's an incredible mom. And there are things that we're going to disagree on. Let's have that disagreement behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Up front, you're an incredible mom. And here's the thing: I'm not saying this just to say it. I mean what I said. You know, and so I think that's valuably important. And as you know, we're all navigating, you know, how that water, because there is no. I mean, you can have, you know, 11 ways to help your child through divorce. You can pick up any book, but you know, you didn't read that when you talk about engagement and getting married, and you didn't read that book. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Right.
no one gave you the roadmap to how you're going to be able to handle this, and every situation is different.
Yes, it is.
And for every different reasons of why people get divorced and how you handle those children. And for me, it's a constant reminder. Number one, I'm going to be the best dad ever.
And you know what? I think that's an important point to bring out, because a lot of men don't perceive themselves that way. They believe that the ownership or the onus of the parental role belongs to the mother. And
right.
I know plenty of people who are not together and there are children involved where the dad doesn't play a significant role. He pops up every now and then. Sometimes, you know, he's a cyber dad, or he's a every now and then dad, every 3 or 4 or 5 month dad, or whatever. And so, you know, those particular circumstances are separate unto themselves. But when you have men like you guys who want to be contributing good fathers, that's admirable, because I think you guys are the exception to the rule.
Right.
Yeah, extraordinary. Exactly. You're the exception to the
I
rule.
might disagree with you there. I mean, maybe it's because of my circle, but this is what I'm presented with. these are the men that are in my life and in my children's life. Another local example is James Smith. I mean, he's a great dad. He's a single dad now.
Right,
You know,
right.
awesome guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So
No.
we have a question from our chat room. Katie
Okay.
Alicia.
Okay.
who-
Hey,
Hey,
Alicia.
Katie.
Hi,
Hey,
Katie.
yeah. Hi, Katie.
She said that the question she has is, having shared custody, do your children get confused having two sets of rules and such?
Andre.
Well, I think the good thing for me is, obviously we were married, we lived in the same house, so generally our rules are the same, So, but as things are evolving differently,
Things tend to change a little
then
bit.
tends to change.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say to answer that question, and it's a good question, is again it goes back to conversation. And so, my daughter, my son, they're twins, they're teenagers. I'm
Well,
not.
kids will get their heads together
And here's the thing,
come
I
up
d-
with a whole new rule
and
that
I-
you
and I
didn't know
didn't-
about.
You didn't know about it, exactly.
Here's the thing, I didn't live under a rock, so I understand that they're getting at the age where, oh wow, I like a boy, and oh wow, I like a girl, and as a dad, I'm like,
Oh boy.
first thing I did was call
Oh,
mom
no.
and say, hey,
Hey, well, what do I do? What
last
do
time
we
we
do?
had this discussion, they were in, 5th and 6th grade, and we was like, absolutely not happening. I think we need to revisit this now.
We need to visit this,
because,
yeah, revisit
because
it.
keep in mind, 4 years from now, they're going to something called college.
So you
Absolutely.
still have an open line of
We have
communication
to.
with
You
your
have to.
You
with
have
your
to,
ex.
because
Yep.
if now again, I'm not a micromanager, so I'm not going to micromanage mom's home. So, but if there's things that we can do together that we can bring from mom's home to dad's home and dad's home to mom's home, let's work. Sure. But one of the things for me, like curfew, I just got to the point where my kids were older. I was like, all right, listen, you got school tomorrow. You ain't late, and you're going.
Absolutely.
So we're not gonna battle this curfew things anymore. I never had an absence, never had a late. Cool. That was before we even left. So I'm now that we're in two separate homes, I would assume that that's the same rule there, same room here, but it's not an issue. But if there's something that I feel is an issue, you bring that to mom and say, hey, how do we communicate on that? What's going on? How you handle this? And then so that we're on the same, as much as we can, on the same page.
Right.
How about Chris? What do you think? What's your mindset on this question?
I mean, well, very specifically, there's as Andre said, I wasn't wasn't under a rock. I wasn't born yesterday. So trying to convince me that you get away with this at mom's house, I may pat you on the back and say that's awesome. I don't think that happens. There are, though, dad house rules and there are mom house rules, and we will do our best to respect those rules. When one of the kids does bring up to me, well, mom lets us, and then fill in that blank, I say, well, that's great. Then that's what you're going to do at mom's house.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
And
It's
and I
easy.
mean,
It's
and
simple.
for me to answer that question, I have a different whole
A whole
aspect.
different perspective.
But I'm not gonna be mean. I'll be nice. I'm the disciplinarian. Mom is not. I mean,
Okay.
she's a great mom. I'm not saying she
Right,
slacks. No,
right.
she's just kind-hearted and loving. So when I punish, she wants to. So we never agree. We never agree. I mean, Crystal, she's 21 now. I'm a granddad. But yeah, those are things that tend to bring conflict between the parents. But I always said, and this is my best advice for fathers and mothers as well, try to continue to co-parent in separate homes. And when you communicate with each other and say, hey, you know what? XY is punished because she's doing bad in school, or she's, whatever it is. Make sure you both, even if it takes a phone call at 8:00 at night, just to double check, hey, look, man, you have to have a plan, because it's parents versus children in reality.
Right.
It's not me and, XY child versus dad or
Exactly.
dad and XY child, because that's going to create a conflict. And guess who's going to suffer the most? the child.
And I think also too, from the outset, I made it very clear I was never one of those you're gonna pit me against mom and mom against me, dad.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
right.
even
That's
when
not happening.
even when we were together, married, living in the same roof, you know, kids are smart. Can I go outside? No.
Well, I tell my kids all the time.
Mom, can I go outside?
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I tell the kids all the time, it's not a Disney movie. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just it's not. This is reality, and curfews are curfews, homework is homework, and if I understand that you're not on electronics at mom's house, you're not going to be on electronics at dad's house. You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it just is what it is. So it's
And I-
very,
Right, and
I
that's very
think-
important.
I think again, it all boils down to one keyword. When you're dealing with divorce, you're dealing with co-parenting. One of the big central words has to be communication.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
The more you
Across
can
the board.
communicate, and get, you know, to the central issues, and try to resolve them. You know, I'm not a micromanager, never been in anything.
Right, right.
And so, you know, I can only tell you, like, this has been my thing from day one. You're not average, so don't bring C's home. You're not a failure, so don't bring D's and F's. Now, again, that might work in someone else's home, and I'm fine with that. In this home,
It don't work in this.
you know,
home.
my daughter came to me, Dad, you know, I'm 14, I got working papers. I want to get a job. You do. You got one every day, Monday through Friday. It's called school.
It's cool.
Hello.
Your job is to go to school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad, can I? Well, you know, what about the summertime? Well, first thing I said, well, me and your mom will have that discussion, and we'll get back with you and see how we that work. Maybe the summertime, but while you're in school, that is your job.
That is your job.
And so that right there stopped the question. I can almost guarantee, without even having that conversation with mom, she didn't go to mom and say, hey, can I get a job? Because this is, from the both perspective, this is your job. Your focus is school.
Absolutely.
And that's a given example to answer the lady question on there.
And let me just ask, how important do you think flexibility is with respect to everything that's involved in the process of co-parenting? You know, there's some parents who, well, you only have this time, and that's all you're gonna get, and I'm, you know.
And I was gonna say something about that. I
Okay.
mean, especially with co-parenting, and then you have a new partner.
Right, oh,
you have
yeah.
you have to communicate to your new partner. Hey, I might get a phone call at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, from the dad, you know, and concerns to the child.
Yeah.
You have to accept that.
Okay.
You know, you have to communicate that with your partner. You have to, you know, there is no, you know, yeah, of course, every day through 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you get that threatening, you know, no, it has to be something.
I want to reel that back
formal.
that back a little bit, because the question that runs through my mind, and I guess for you, because you are the divorced man in the room, how do you introduce your kids to someone you're dating,
The new
or
person.
that you're, you know,
That shall take you some time. that's the
Sounds like another
trophy.
show.
That's the trophy right
Yeah,
there.
we
That's the trophy.
may have to
Once-
do another show
yeah,
for
once
that one.
once you meet the children, that's the trophy. You know, that means you're a keeper. But until then, I mean, you also have to tell your partner, look, you know, it's just how it is, you know. And if the partner doesn't accept it and doesn't understand that, maybe you shouldn't be
partners.
dating.
Absolutely.
You know, because
absolutely.
they have to be they have to be understanding of everything that's taking place in front of them. It's better than to have the drama. You know, I'm trying.
Right.
And another thing is, which I found very, very, very effective, is a lot of women or men have the bad habit of when they do meet somebody, they don't talk to the father or the mother, and then next thing you know, they're showing up to the house, picking up the child with the partner. And there's no talk in between, and I've seen it happen, and I think that's a huge mistake. Even if they know about the partner, do they feel comfortable to see that person with you?
Exactly.
You know, you can't forget the fact that you were once married, or were once involved in a love affair together.
That can be a humongous
Yeah.
trigger
Yes,
for drama.
You will find that
Oh.
shotgun.
That could be a humongous trigger that causes
Yeah.
a serious
Yeah,
external
all
explosion.
kinds of things will be said that really shouldn't be.
I
Really shouldn't
mean,
be
hello.
Children.
I have a question to jump way back to kind of what Andre had brought up about communication, and as was pointed out, you being the divorced man in the room, how well did you feel the beginning guidelines, using the court's order, using the courts to facilitate the initial openings and opportunities for discussion, for communication, guidelines? I don't know what the right word is to throw in there, but
The orders from like court orders.
right. I mean, did you feel that was a very necessary part at the very beginning?
No. Actually, like I said, this is why, and it's good question at a good time. She found out I was dating somebody. Found out through the grapevines. That's how the court started happening. We had a mutual agreement. Everything was going fine until
She found
5
out.
months later. Oh, you're dating somebody. Okay, boom, get a
Make sure your point.
get a whole thing. So
What is it? Go ahead.
Bring
Andre.
it to the point that you said earlier about the being able to cope.
Right.
I think, from whatever perspective, whether you're the male or the female perspective, once it's over, it's over. And no time is ever going to be a great time for any person to pick up and start moving on. It could be 6 months later. That ain't a good time. It could be a year later. It still ain't a good time. No time is ever going to be the right time.
My daughters are telling me it's time, Mom.
Right. And
And I'm still not ready.
No-
but that's me.
But
That's
right.
not them.
But and again, no
Give me
time.
the face.
But here's the thing.
Holly's priceless, man.
That's
And I have to
that's
preface
a
that.
personal perspective answer that each person has to take from a personal perspective.
Absolutely.
I learned this, as a person who have to deal with families of grieving in ministry of what I have. I always get a question that says, well, after a person dies, how long should I wait? Darling, sir, I can't answer that question.
Absolutely.
That's a question that is, I may have an answer. You may disagree. Your family may disagree. It's the same thing with divorce and moving forward. You can't go by what someone else would say. It is what you feel is right,
The right
in the
time.
time for you.
Right.
Because, but now, to answer the question, once you feel that moment is right, it's how you handle that. The tricky part of all that is going to be, and this is where I think the tricky part is, you have a lot of moving parts to play now. You have to think about, and is it fair to just always keep thinking about the ex and their feelings? You got to think about this person now you want to have a relation with and their feelings. And you also got to think about these children and their feelings.
Exactly.
And so if you're a person that can navigate this, because it's going to be tricky.
It is.
And the key part of the person has to say, I'm moving forward. This still may not be resolved because they haven't moved forward. Or if they did move forward, like you said, showing up, that's going to bring all the kind of emotions back. You got to have a person who's smart enough to say, hey, you know what? I can't do that.
Right.
We're not there yet. We're not at that stage. And so how do I navigate handling this situation, but still moving forward?
Well, I think part of that too is you have to figure out how important this new person is in your life. Because if they're not necessarily a keeper, it's fine for Dad probably to go out and have dinner or drinks or whatever.
Sure.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to enter that person into your children's lives
No,
until
no,
you
no,
know.
no,
so that was really kind of my
That's
point.
a quick.
They only
no.
come
Is
into the
that the
kid's
time?
life
No.
if they are at that juncture that you're seeing future.
Absolutely.
If you're just dating with someone,
And,
that's
and I
amazing.
have to
Yeah.
go back to the face that I got from Holly, and the reason
And that was
She
one.
still get it. She
Face
still
going
get
on.
it.
You're still
Yeah.
getting
because
paid.
she's my cousin, but I have to say that the reason that I said that is it was not that I was not ready to meet someone, but I needed to work on myself because I was
Absolutely, yeah.
married
I was
for
going to
a
ask
very
about
long time.
That's the
self-love.
mature thing
How
to
do
do.
you feel
Right,
about
right.
yourself, and you've just gone through an emotional
Upheaval.
and there's perhaps even some self-hatred,
And I really think it's important for people to look at themselves and love themselves first. Because,
Absolutely.
I was in a very, very long marriage. And what I find is that when you're with someone for a very long time, sometimes you don't realize what opinions are actually yours and what are the opinions of the person that you lived with for so long.
Yeah.
And so it really does take some unpacking all of that baggage to know who you are before
Absolutely.
you go into the next relationship.
Absolutely.
And kids don't know, and then they get attached to the person, and then the person's
It's
gone
gone.
because you've had the same issues in that relationship that you had in your past relationship because you didn't unpack your baggage.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think it's so important. Going back to what you said about self-love, until you truly love yourself, you cannot love anybody else. What you're doing is you're lusting them. Okay, and there's a big difference. When you love yourself, you're not going to tolerate certain things in your life. You're not going to accept them. You're going to realize what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And you're not going to be willing to cross that line because you know your own value and your own importance and what you bring to the table. Unfortunately, a lot of women, they bring their body to the table. That's what they're offering. They don't realize what else they have, and they have not spent the time to love themselves, especially in between breakups.
That's
Well,
right.
I have to say that this has been an amazing conversation this evening,
Yes, it
and
has
far
been.
too short. So I think our next time around, we should have a round table of men and women having this kind of conversation.
Yeah,
And I
I agree.
really believe that this is a conversation that's very important,
Yes,
Yes.
it
not
is.
only for ourselves, but for our listeners, because this is how men and women are supposed to get along.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Having
a lot of-
conversations.
Interact.
and a lot of shows are afraid to have these
Yeah.
types of
I
shows
agree.
and conversations.
And
Absolutely.
and
But
as
this
a
was
side note,
let
I
this
mean,
be-
I want to say that I had a nasty breakup, a really nasty breakup in my divorce. I am now actually, I could say, friends with my ex-husband because we started as friends and we are now friends. But, we can actually have a conversation and not feel like we're going to kill each other. And it's really important. And okay, Miss Holly, stop making
I was there once, Sarah.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
But-
Trust me.
but,
I was there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on and being so transparent.
Absolutely.
We
Yes.
appreciate that you stuck to the guidelines that we kind of put down, and there are lots of backstories, and we know that there are a lot of them out there. But we want to say that we appreciate you coming on and talking to us about
Absolutely.
how things are for you, Mama C.
Well, you know what? One
Words
of
of
the things-
wisdom, Mama C.
Oh, it's
Words
time
of
for my words of
yes,
wisdom.
ma'am. We
Yes,
we
ma'am.
are at.
This went so fast. I didn't
know,
even
right? It
put
went
up any
fast.
words of wisdom. I just wrote Sister Chat Wisdom. Okay.
I know.
I've
seen it
when
too.
I get
I'm like,
when I get this
read it.
engrossed,
Well, then
you know,
I'm going to give the words of women.
I think you should,
of
Sarah.
wisdom.
Of wisdom. Sarah.
Love each other as you would love yourself. That's my words of wisdom.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And if you don't know if you love yourself, work on it until you're sure you love
See, I
yourself
knew
and
I'd
what
give
that
her
means.
some words of wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. You have to understand what